All right, so I have a correction to make because I'm a dummy. So I don't know exactly why I thought this was a Welcome once again, nerds, to your favorite pop culture nerd news show, all of the nerdy news that matters. And in today's episode, we have, honestly, so many new trailers and new releases. I don't really know what to do with them all, and some news updates along the way as well. Before we get to the news, though, we got a little bit of housekeeping to talk about. So starting off, we are once again not doing a live episode this weekend. I have plans for potentially getting, not likely this weekend. I tried at the Kevin Smith thing as much as made sense under the circumstances, and that didn't really pan out like I would have liked, but you know, it is what it is. We already have the Kevin Smith interview from a couple years ago, so like beggars can't be choosers and whatnot. But yeah, so definitely going to be trying to get some more legwork in to get some more interviews as we near the off season, but no guarantees between now and then. I am still sitting on, I believe, one more interview from Starfest Denver, though that video is going to be a little bit different because people at a nerd convention just have no situational awareness, which means I lost the video from one of the cameras for the first half of the interview. And there is still video from the secondary camera. It's just that was the one that was on the talent, and the other video that we lost was the one that was pointed at me. And I had a separate audio source, so that should be fine. The audio version, if you are listening on audio, will be just fine. But that is the only interview that I'm currently sitting on as far as what still needs to be posted. So hopefully we can score a couple more between now and the end of the year. Maybe one more at least, I guess, is probably a more realistic goal. And yeah, so that's where we sit there. No live episode this weekend. We already covered that. And then next weekend, I think, might be the last live show that we do before the off season. And then once the off season hits, I believe we are going to, I'm pretty sure I've 100% made up my mind. I'll get back to you on that, but let's call it about 85% sure that we are going to be doing just live shows during the off season, kind of a switch from previous off seasons where we have only done rumors and then major news breaks. That will all be covered in the live show. It's just the live show. I don't have to do as much pre-planning because it's kind of a fly by the seat of your pants situation, and it's much less editing as well because basically it just goes up as a VOD. So I think that is all of the proper housekeeping. Don't forget to find the social medias and join there, especially if you are into nerdy things. I mean, specifically, I do a lot of Mortal Kombat stuff on the social medias, partially because I write for a Mortal Kombat website, but also AI art and just random things that I find are awesome in the moment while I'm doing research or just throughout my week. We can have those, and we can have a more direct conversation, I guess is what I'm trying to say, on the social medias than we do in the comments section on the proper episodes. So go find, once again, Generally Nerdy on whatever social media is your liking, and that is all of the housekeeping, I promise. Let's get into music news. Starting things off, this episode of music news is mostly new music. We have no follow-ups. We have no corrections. We have just a lot of new music to talk about. And honestly, there was even quite a few new music pieces that I left out because it's bands that are just releasing another single off of their current record, which we have already talked about, or a band that my stance on is fairly well known, or a band that I didn't see the point in. They didn't add anything to the conversation, so I didn't see the point in covering them until they can kind of step forward a little bit more, whatever. And also another one that I saw just before I came to film, because it's going to go on next week's episode, because I want to kind of digest this one a little bit more before we talk about it. But that being said, we do have quite a bit of new music to talk about regardless. The first piece of new music for today, Avatar, as in not The Last Airbender, but the metal band, have released a new single off of their forthcoming record, which still has no name or release date, but the name of the single is Valley of Disease. Link you can find down in the description. Man, this is Avatar. Their last record, Hunter Gatherer, I feel like was probably a little more aggressive. That's not to say that this song is not aggressive, but that was Avatar, like, we've been locked in a room for 2 years, pissed off, whereas this one is Avatar getting back into the swing of being Avatar. So, nothing disparaging in any of those words. I think this is prime Avatar, whereas what we got last record was an overcorrection because the Avatar country record was so much in a goofy direction. They wanted to take it a little bit more seriously for the Hunter-Gatherer record. This new record seems like it's going to be back in the middle where we love our Avatar. And this song is a lot of fun. It's a great rockin' tune, pretty aggressive at the aggressive parts. You get Johannes with his great voice in those soaring choruses, and just an all-around good time. Absolutely 100% recommend this one to anybody, really. Our next one is Poppy, is a group singer musical identity that we don't really talk about much. We have talked about Poppy before on the channel, but she just kind of is more on the outskirts of what we usually talk about, not really in the middle of that Venn diagram, if you will. But she's releasing, or has released, a new single, FYB. I'm not going to say what that stands for because, you know, potential censorship issues. But yeah, new Poppy single, FYB, is interesting. So as I was listening to this, I kept wanting to put in my notes, like, this feels like pop music, punk rock. It's not pop punk, because that is a completely different situation. That's, you know, Good Charlotte, Blink-182, something like that. And that, I don't think, is what this is. This feels like a pop artist doing pop vocal things over a very aggressive punk rock sound. This is not your bubblegum punk undertone. This is actually borderline, that walks that weird line between thrash and hardcore punk as far as the musicality goes, which is such a weird dichotomy with those pop vocals over the top that just, I don't know, it's an enigma wrapped in a mystery, and it's intriguing. I can't, the production on this as well is fantastic, but I can't tell you who this is for. If you're a fan of Poppy, you're a fan of Poppy. You already know this is a song for you, but anyone outside of Poppy, I mean, I guess this is a fair example of what you're going to get into. So if you're curious as to what Poppy is, go listen to this. But as far as a general recommend, I don't think I can do that. Skid Row, one of my favorite bands from the 80s. I'm a Sebastian Skid Row guy, generally speaking, but they have released a new song as well. The name of this new song is Time Bomb. It comes from their record, The Gang's All Here, and this is what hair metal sounds like in 2022. There's no, there's no other way to say that. That is exactly what this is. And through that lens, that seems to be expertly executed. So congratulations to the guys in Skid Row. I really dig Skid Row. Just, again, generally speaking, Sebastian is my Skid Row. I haven't really listened to / liked what I have listened to, anything that they've released since he left the band or they kicked him out or whatever that happened. But the new guy, he's been around much longer than Sebastian ever was. The current guy is talented. Like, this song definitely illustrates that. The only issue here is, again, this is hair metal in 2022. There is definitely a niche for hair metal in 2022. I just don't know how broad that niche is and, you know, who exactly falls into it outside of like somebody pushing into their 50s or 60s who listened to this stuff in the 80s when it was still new. And that's not really a demographic that a lot of people are going for, though it seems to be doing Skid Row just fine. So if that's your demographic, you'll probably dig this. If you don't really have an appreciation for hair metal, gotta say, probably steer away from this one. Now, we are talking about a band that we've actually spoken of before when they put out their first EP. The What Is It, Kill It EP by Vended. That's right, we're talking about Vended. Corey Taylor and Sean Crahan's kids are in a band together. It is called Vended. They have released a new single that is not yet attached to an album. This new single is called Dead to Me. Dead spelled like Gen Zers want to spell, I guess, by leaving things out and making it edgy, kind of like we did in the early aughts. Whatever. So this track is a giant leap forward for this band. These guys have learned a lot as far as how to make compelling music since they put out that What Is It, Kill It EP. This track is very much more them starting to find their own voice and not just kind of mimic the things that they've been hearing and try and mash them together, not so well executed. This one is very well executed. I dig this new song. The lyrical content is a little lacking here. Corey Taylor, he's definitely not his father, but aside from that, the vocal delivery, the performance of the vocals is really good. The instrumentation also expertly crafted. I feel like, again, these guys are learning what dynamics are and how to capitalize on them expertly. The recommendation here is for people who really appreciate aggressive music and are looking for an up-and-coming band that probably hasn't quite hit their stride yet. These guys probably have another record, maybe two, before they're really in their prime music-making mode. But this is a very promising step forward. Next, we are talking about Giovanni and the Hired Guns. This is some new era pop punk, kind of. The name of the track is Overrated. This is almost like this. I say pop punk, and that's kind of putting it in an incorrect subgenre, but that's kind of still the feel. This feels like early Pennywise almost. This feels like, to a certain extent, even Voodoo Glow Skulls. This definitely has a lot of greatness to it, and I really dig this track. This is a feel-good punk rock song that has a tuba in it because it somehow fits very well. This one comes from the new record that is coming out October 28th from these guys. It's going to be called Tejano Punk Boys, and this is my first time listening to this band, and I really dig what I'm hearing, so I'm very excited to see what else comes out of this record. Definitely a wholehearted recommend on this one. NoFX released a new single. This comes from their forthcoming double album, which is coming out December 2nd. It's a very strange release time for a band because then, you know, you're going into a new year with last year's record. I know it sounds stupid, but that's how the music industry works. But it's NoFX, so they're just kind of, yeah, whatever, we're going to do what we want. That being said, I kind of waffle on how much I like NoFX. This is a callback to the NoFX that I really, really dig. The name of this track is Darby Crashing Your Party. It's a song written about Darby Crash, I believe. And yeah, the Fat Mike's bass work in the intro of this song is everything I wanted out of a quality punk rock tune. It was just that I was pleasantly surprised at the opening of this track, and you should be too. This is definitely a recommend. This double record is going to be the third disc in a way, the second and third disc in a way to last year's single album, I believe. Is that what it was called? I can't remember, and I don't have time to look it up, but this is definitely a recommend. So we talked about Vended. Now let's talk about Vended. Vended is a very different band that has kind of been around for a while. Members have been in other bands. This is a bit of an international supergroup I saw described by one of the outlets. The name of this new track is My Desire. We have actually talked about these guys previously as well. The only reason we're talking about them again, because this is technically from the same record that the last record came from, which is Cruelty and Corruption. The reason we are talking about them again is because this is a lot more quality. Last time I wasn't a big fan. Seemed really aimless and didn't really do much for me in any real direction. This time they found what they want to do and they are doing it fairly well. And that is groove. This is groovy metal. These guys, some of their members previously played in Devil Driver, Life of Agony, I believe, as well. Devil Driver is definitely one of my favorite new wave American heavy metal bands. So definitely that shows here because a lot of groove is associated with new wave American heavy metal. And this is groovy. Like if you were looking for a heavy, groovy tune, this is the new track for you. And then, one of my favorite bands from the early aughts, is when I found them at least, is He Is Legend. They have released not one, but 2 new singles. The first of which is called Lifeless Lemonade. The second of which is called The Prowler. This is from their Endless Hallway record, which will be out November 11th. Again, very strange that we're releasing albums at the end of the year. That's generally not how the music business works, but everybody's itching to release music, and He Is Legend gave us a fantastic record last time with White Bat, and so far this new record is even better. Even better. I dug the hell out of White Bat. This one though is a lot more heavy, a lot more sophisticated musically, and that's saying something because He Is Legend is a band that definitely takes their sophistication seriously and just, I love it. This is, if you like heavy music at all, you should be listening to just He Is Legend in general, very specifically these 2 new tracks, Lifeless Lemonade and The Prowler. And then, Lord of the Lost is going to round out our new music section. This is one of my favorite bands from the last 10 years. These guys are fantastic. The name of this track is A World Where We Belong. It is from the Judas album that I honestly forgot has already released, and I don't have it yet, which sucks. But this track specifically is Lord of the Lost doing the thing and doing it like seasoned veterans, which they are at this point. They've been doing music for so long. This is, generally speaking, they have 2 different kinds of albums. They have the orchestral pieces, and then they have the like goth metal pieces. And usually there's a little bit of overlap, but not a whole lot, just because, you know, they do these things as creative entities. And this one is actually seemingly somewhere in the middle. And I really dig this. This is so good. This isn't even, you don't even have to like heavy music to really get into this track. This is just good music. This is something that everyone can listen to and have some sort of appreciation for. So absolutely go listen to A World Where We Belong by Lord of the Lost. So all of that new music out of the way, there's a whole bunch, I warned you. All of the new music out of the way, we have one piece of regular ass music news. It's to do with Falling in Reverse. Ronnie Radke recently took to the interwebs to post a video talking about why the band has pulled out of the WIIL Music Festival in Illinois. It seems that it's because they have lost their laptops. Now, there's a very strange amount of detail here because in that there's really no detail at all as to why a metal band has to play with laptops, plural. Multiple laptops have to do a thing for you to do your thing on stage. This seems highly suspect. They said this is the only date that they are canceling. They will continue with the rest of their festival dates that they have scheduled going forward. But so to quote, there is a little bit of a quote, and Ronnie did a long video, but there is a little bit of a quote that I found was interesting. He says in the video, he says, as a band in 2022, you need your laptops. It's like driving a car without an engine. I know plenty of bands playing in multiple levels who don't play with laptops. I understand that Falling in Reverse does do some programming elements, and I'm not familiar with their stage show. I've only passively listened to them. I'm not honestly much of a fan of Falling in Reverse, to be 100% honest. So like maybe I'm not the most well-informed as to how a laptop is instrumental in your performance, but I know from being a musician, I know from being a producer, I know from putting on live shows myself that bands who perform with laptops probably aren't actually playing their instruments on stage. Or vocalists aren't actually singing on stage as a means to preserve their vocals because this is my instrument, and so if I beat it up every night, yada, 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 yada. No further explanation has been offered by anyone in the Falling in Reverse camp, not the least of which being Ronnie Radke. So I don't know. If something else comes out of this, we will definitely be talking about it. But this one is just, I kind of wanted the community to discuss here because just seems very, very suspect to me. And that brings us to music suggestions for this episode. We're going to go with Avatar, Hail the Apocalypse. This is actually the first Avatar record I found because Bloody Angel was the big single off of this one that got them crazy, crazy rotation on metal radio. And honestly, it was suggested to me by YouTube because I was watching a lot of like Mushroom Head videos and stuff like that. So seemed rather appropriate. And then I fell in love. The opening track for this is probably one of my top 10 album openers of all time. Just the Hail the Apocalypse track, that riff is so catchy and still so balls out heavy like this record. And it actually goes very well in line with our Halloween theme that we're sticking with because, you know, Johannes paints his face like the Crow and, you know, lots of performative elements to this band. So absolutely worth your time. Hail the Apocalypse by Avatar. It's a couple years old now, but it's absolutely worth a listen. So now let's get into gaming and tech. We have a bunch of follow-ups here as well. We do have a little bit more regular news to get into for this section, but by and large, today is all about the follow-ups, man. So first things first, we have Halo Infinite's Forge mode that we need to talk about. So in the Halo Championship Series, there was a tournament this past weekend. I believe it was in Orlando. I might be misremembering that because I didn't put it in the notes because I take amazing notes. But we did get another tournament, and to start off the tournament, we had a throwback throwdown. We had teams that were around in the Halo 3 days also coming back just for this throwback throwdown. And the big thing here, again, we're talking about Halo Infinite's Forge mode, which is, you know, just a couple of weeks, just a few weeks away. I think it's coming in November. We got to see the Forge in action because this throwback throwdown, we got 2 rounds on the pit, as it kind of was in Halo 3, as built in Halo Infinite's Forge mode. I wasn't a big fan of some of the textures and things because it looks very much Metal Gear Solid VR missions-y. But still was pretty awesome to see how faithful this was to the Halo 3 version of the pit. And it was a lot of fun to see a lot of those older dudes who are about my age playing some Halo at a professional level still. So that was pretty awesome. I was super stoked about it. I hope you were too. I'll get a link in the description. You can check it out if you have not yet. Is this enough though? That is the question that we always come back to when we talk Halo Infinite. Is this going to be enough for the community to keep this game alive, or are those rumors correct that maybe now that we're getting a new lead for 343 that it's gonna go in a different direction? We're gonna be getting a new game much sooner. Moving next to NetherRealm Studios, Ed Boon recently, actually twice over the last week, has done a Twitter AMA, which always is a lot more cacophonous and crazy than I think he anticipates, or maybe he expects it and that's why he does it this way, so it's harder to follow. but he's opened up questions for I believe like an hour or two. It could have been a little bit longer than that, but yeah, it's definitely been an interesting thing to see. But a big thing that came out of the second of these two AMAs is a tweet where he said that the gaming studio, quote, has more than one pot on the stove, unquote, when asked how the next game is coming along by someone in the Mortal Kombat community. Apparently there is more than one thing that is happening at NetherRealm Studios. That is super interesting. So this has led the community to kind of speculate. So we're not talking about this in rumors because this is something that Boone actually said. So we're covering it as news because now we are acknowledging the speculation. So speculation has been that we're going to be getting Mortal Kombat 12, but also we're going to be getting some other game, a la Shaolin Monks 2 or the Scorpion and Sub-Zero game that we were supposed to get like 15 years ago. Something along those lines. The other end of that speculation is that, yes, they are working on Mortal Kombat 12, but they also have a team working on some sort of arcade edition or arcade collection rather, version 2 that includes everything up to MK4. Just all over the place and everything in between those two. So, and I think one of my other favorite ones, as far as the community speculation goes, is that they're working on another game combining everything that's happened so far in the Warner Brothers era, because somebody made a very erroneous graphic, but a graphic nonetheless, that collects Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, and then it has Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and then the next row down has Mortal Kombat 4, Deception, Deadly Alliance, and then Mortal Kombat Armageddon, as kind of insinuating that that is a collection of those three games, much like Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, or Mortal Kombat Trilogy, rather. I correct myself. Mortal Kombat Trilogy was a collection of the previous three before it, and then it shows Mortal Kombat 9, 10, and 11, and then has a blank box, like, let's get another combination game of all those three. Very much leaving out a whole lot of stuff that happened, like Mortal Kombat versus DC didn't get thrown into anything, and that's technically Mortal Kombat 8. And Trilogy doesn't factor into the count unless you're going by TRMK's count of things, and they count Trilogy as an evolved version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which is an evolved version of Mortal Kombat 3. So it just kind of continues, but none of that really fits when you break it down. So just an interesting little bit of community news for the Mortal Kombat nerds. There is potentially going to be a thing beyond just whatever the next fighting game is, because we know that is NetherRealm's bread and butter. So we know that that is going to, at the very least, be the next thing, is a fighting game. What that fighting game is, very likely to be Mortal Kombat 12, though it also could possibly be something else in their oeuvre or something new, but it is going to be a fighting game. And we're going to be getting something else. Is it going to be another platformer? Is it going to be another brawler, a la Shaolin Monks or whatever? That is very much up to speculation, and it's fun to think about. But let's move right along. Other follow-ups in gaming and tech. Next, we're talking about Splinter Cell. We did talk about this previously, but we now have a job listing by Ubisoft. So it was announced, I believe, a year ago that they are working on a Splinter Cell reboot. Now, in this new job listing, there is the term in there that the story mode is going to be, quote, rewritten for a modern audience, unquote. What does that mean? Presumably, it means, we've gone through a lot since the last Splinter Cell game has released, as far as like politics and the espionage things and spy things in the world beyond gaming. A lot of stuff has happened, and a lot of people are much more educated in the potential, like, shadiness of governments. So that stuff all needs to be considered when writing a new Splinter Cell game. So I think that is more in line, judging by the way the rest of the interview with the lead developer went recently. Judging by that stuff and these specific words, which may have been poorly chosen, admittedly, but it seems that it's going to be more in line with just the general population has a better education as to how espionage-like things might function because they've been covered in major news outlets. So you have to, add that to the lore. I don't think that the stigma version of updated for modern audiences is going to apply much, though it is modern gaming, so very potentially story mode is going to, have some sort of social justice check marks that it has to go through. I just don't think that is going to be the focus of a Splinter Cell game necessarily. I could very much be proven wrong. It just feels like they're going to go in a smarter direction. But that's just me, and let's move on. Next, we're talking about E3. We got official word that E3 is going to happen in 2023, and it's going to happen June 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. And it's going to be in LA like it always is. That's really the only thing we have about E3, so let's move right along. And our final follow-up has to do with that Grand Theft Auto 6 leak that we talked about previously. It seems that police officials in the UK believe they have at least one person associated with this leak / hack / whatever Take-Two is trying to bill it as, so that they can take legal action against these people who have breached their company's security, rightfully so. The name of the kid wasn't released. He is 17 years old, and he is believed to be part of a larger hacker group. Didn't write down the hacker group because I take amazing notes, but yeah. GTA 6 leak is not out of the news cycle yet because these things are going to keep happening. And so we're going to keep covering, but that's all we got for now. Let's move into regular ass news. And then first up, we're talking about Netflix gaming. We've talked about this previously, but this is a different kind of issue inside of Netflix gaming. So before it was Netflix is going to do gaming streaming options through their platform for mobile. And that was really all we had. Now there is a bit of an evolution to this, which is why it's not a technical follow-up. This is brand new, and Netflix is starting their own developer. Their in-house developer is going to be led by EA and Zynga alum Marco Lastica. He's going to be the director of the studio, and that's all we know so far because it's going to be a while before they can develop a game. Usually that time frame takes from 3 to 5 years, and they just got the guy in the position, so they got to fill out all the rest of the positions. So it's very likely we're not going to see anything before like 2026, I would imagine, and even that's a little soon. So it's going to be a while, but we will be hearing things from Netflix gaming in the not too distant future. All right, and then our next one is more tech than anything else. This one has to do with Audacity, popular audio editing program because it's free. Audacity is getting some well-deserved updates. The new version of Audacity is going to allow for non-destructive editing, so you can edit a little bit more like you're in, say, Adobe Premiere or Reaper or, any other high-end audio editing software that you have to pay money for. Plus, Muse Audio Group, I believe is the name. Muse Group is what it's called. They have fixed the issues that the VSTs were giving the program, as well as increased the compatibility with VSTs to also include VST3s. If all of this sounds like Greek to you, let me break this down for you. So, very popular free program, Audacity. Previously was a little hard to deal with. There were user interface issues, there were compatibility issues with VSTs, there were stability issues, so on and so forth. But it was free, so a lot of people use it because podcasts are everywhere and everyone tries to start a podcast, and one of the best ways to do that is with as much free stuff as you can because overhead is a thing. So what this is doing is making Audacity much more viable in the grander scheme of things, people are more likely to stick with Audacity for longer before they need to do things like multi-track recording, so on and so forth. So I have yet to use the most recent version of Audacity. I used Audacity when I first got into doing podcasts and stuff about 6 years ago, and have since moved on a little bit. But all of these updates make me intrigued. There's going to be a general user interface update as well. So I'm very much intrigued as to what the functionality will be now that Audacity is getting upgraded. So yeah, that is everything we have in gaming. And oh no, I take it back. There's a little bit more to the Audacity thing. Wow, I got to read my notes better. So on top of all of that, now collaboration is going to be much easier with somebody who doesn't share the room with you, because they are starting a website that you access through the app, I believe, that it's called audio.com. You can also access it through a browser. Audio.com, so you can share your files with collaborators or just share them in a social media type environment. Again, have yet to use this new version of Audacity, but seems very intriguing. So that, my fellow nerds, is exactly everything that we have to talk about in gaming and tech, except for gaming and tech suggestions. This one, kind of in line with our the Halloween theme that we're going with suggestions, is Mortal Kombat 11. It's been a while since I recommended this. It's been a while since, honestly, since I have played 11, because I've been so elbows deep in Halo Infinite, and honestly, Halo Master Chief Collection, that just I forgot my roots for a second. So this is your friendly reminder to play the most recent installment of Mortal Kombat. As, you know, the year still is not up. We do still have the official birthday in October for Mortal Kombat. So we still could get some sort of awesome announcement very soon on the 30th birthday of Mortal Kombat, but I'm definitely not holding my breath. Either way, play Mortal Kombat 11 to bide the time, won't you? So next, comic book and books. We got no follow-ups, we got no corrections, we got no trailers, sadly. I like it when we get comic book trailers. They're just a lot of fun to deal with. No trailers to speak of, but we do have some news. So let's get into regular old news. First up is DC has announced, actually both of our big pieces have to do with DC. The first one is a new book, Riddler Year 1. So just the Year 1 series is kind of always a good announcement in and of itself, but this one's pretty interesting in that Paul Dano, the most recent on-screen Riddler, who was in The Batman, as directed by Matt Reeves, starring Edward Cullen, he's going to be writing this book. It is going to be, they did say that it is going to be also in association with Stevan Subic, who is a writer, but he is going to be focusing mostly on the art for this book. So Dano has the lion's share of writing to do. And it's very interesting because it sounds like the way he got into character for the Riddler was a little method, and maybe this will be great because I really dug their version of the Riddler. Maybe I'll dig his version of the backstory for that Riddler. Yeah, we'll have to see. Year 1 will be out on October 25th, so you can go check it out then. Our next piece has to do with Stan Lee, of all people. And I know what you're saying. I just told you that it has to do with DC. What does Stan Lee have to do with DC? Well, not a whole lot, except for he did a series of one-shot books back in the early 2000s called Just Imagine, and it was kind of his version of the DC superheroes. And now DC is announcing that they're going to be expanding this to some degree. They're calling it Stan Lee's Just Imagine Tales from Earth 6. So that's pretty freaking cool, man. I don't dig the character designs entirely, specifically the Batman. Not much for this iteration of the Batman, though I didn't read these one-shots, surprisingly, so I probably have to get my hands on those, and then we'll check out this one. But this is still pretty cool. We have writers who are going to be joining this, because they're not just reissuing the Stan Lee books. They're going to be writing new stories in this Earth 6 universe. So we have writers associated with this are Michael Uslan, Mark Waid, oh yeah, Jerry Ordway, Kenny Porter, Stephanie Williams, I dig that one as well, Michael W. Conrad, and Becky Cloonan going to be writing a book together. Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing also going to be writing a book together. Megan Fitzmartin, Steve Orlando, Zach Thompson, and then artists associated with this project are Lee Weeks, Kevin McGuire, Jerry Ordway, Carl Mostert, Juan Ferreira, Anthony Marquez, Pablo M. Collar, I believe is how that's pronounced. I apologize if I'm butchering these names. Belen Ortega, Max Dunbar, Hayden Sherman, and others all going to be associated with this. And that's not even the variant covers that are going to be this. This is going to be a prestige release, I believe. Yeah, it's good, and it's going to be December 27th is when you'll be able to find it on bookshelves, which seems like a missed opportunity. Like they couldn't rush it out a week earlier to get some of that Christmas money. Seems a little weird, but either way, sounds pretty awesome. Let's move on. Our next piece has to do with Marvel, surprisingly. Marvel is releasing a Marvel Anatomy book. It's coming from the publisher Insight Editions. It's like a book that has the scientific breakdown of the anatomy of superheroes and kind of gets into the different idiosyncrasies that come with their powers, if you will. Yeah, very interesting, pretty dang cool. Again, comes from Insight Editions. There is a link in the description if you want to pre-order a book, or if, you know, you're seeing this after it's already out and you want to go buy it. Again, that link should be sufficient for both of those purposes. It's really cool. The premise of the book, because it is written by, where's my notes? It is written by Marc Sumerak, I guess, and Daniel Wallace. They wrote the text, and Jonah Lobe is the artist that was in charge of all of these detailed drawings. But the premise of the book is that Shuri and T'Challa are creating an encyclopedia of Marvel superheroes as a means to identify potential Skrulls, because if you know what the actual superhero's anatomy is supposed to be, and you see a difference, then that might identify a Skrull. So it's pretty, I mean, it's a little bit of a flimsy premise as far as like incorporating it into the Marvel universe, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. I dig this. This is a lot of fun. But yeah, again, link down in the description if you want it. That's the place to get it. We're going to move on to comic books and books suggestions for this week. We have Dune by Frank Herbert is our suggestion this week. I couldn't resist. We are getting ready for Chapter House series on HBO Max, which we haven't really talked about as much in the news as maybe we probably should have, but it's all such minor updates. We're going to wait for a little bit more of a major update. But either way, Dune, before Chapter House comes out, you've got a lot of reading. And next year sees the release of Dune Part 2 in the theaters. So yeah, there's a lot of backstory that you need to be catching up on there, nerds. If you have not yet read it, there are 7 books in the original Frank Herbert series. So maybe move on to the next book so you can have a better understanding of everything going on in that universe. Either way, it's amazing. Now let's talk TV streaming, shall we, nerds? All right, so I have a correction to make because I'm a dummy. So I don't know exactly why I thought this was a series or a movie and not a series, but apparently I was mistaken, and the Dahmer series on Netflix is in fact a series and not a movie. So when we talked about it previously in the movie section, I was wrong, and I apologize. Yeah, I don't know how my wires got crossed there. It's entirely possible that I just was in the wrong section when taking notes and never caught it. I don't know. Either way, I'm dumb. Let's move on, shall we? Our next piece of follow-up, actually, no more corrections, just a follow-up, has to do with Stargirl. We talked previously about the potential of a Stargirl crossover event with the rest of the existing Arrowverse, or whatever we're calling the DC properties that are on TV and streaming these days. But yeah, it was rumored previously. It's still technically a rumor now, but I feel like this is such concrete evidence that I didn't want to put it in the rumor section, because we have a picture of Breck Basinger, the lead for Stargirl. She is on set with Ryan Potter, who plays Beast Boy. And Beast Boy isn't in Stargirl. So yeah, this seems all but confirmed at this point. We will at the very least be getting a crossover between Titans and Stargirl. Whether or not we get Doom Patrol in there still remains to be seen, but this seems pretty concrete that Doom Patrol is crossing over with Stargirl. So that's what we've got on that one. Let's move right along. The announcement for the next series of American horror stories, the next season, is going to be called New York City, which opens up a lot of strange questions. Not the least of which, on the top of my list, is Macaulay Culkin going to be returning for this season? I have not seen any confirmation that that is happening just yet, but it does start next month. So hopefully we'll have a better picture of that in the coming days/weeks. Also, the release date proper, because it's also in the notes, because I read, is October 19th. So we have a couple of weeks, yes, but still was not able to find a whole lot of like casting and things around this. Now that we know the name of the season, maybe all of that stuff is just gonna kind of come with the floodgates. But again, that is what we have. So let's move to our next piece, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbender this time. Not the band, The Last Airbender, the series. This is actually the live action series. We got some more casting announcements for said live action series. George Takei is going to be playing Ko. Amber Midthunder, from Prey, she was the lead in Prey. She's going to be Princess Yu, and James Tsai, who voiced the Cabbage Merchant, will now also play him in the live-action series, which was actually rumored previously, and now this is also a rumor confirmation. So that's pretty dang cool. That is all of the new casting around Avatar: The Last Airbender. So let's move right along into The Witcher: Blood Origin. Netflix's Tadum event has happened, so we got a lot of trailers and stuff for that. And part of that announcement was that Blood Origin is going to be coming out December 25th of this year, which seems both kind of quick and also far away all at the same time, right? Because we've been waiting for this for a minute, but like, if you really think about it, it wasn't announced that long ago, so that's pretty cool. And then our final follow-up for this section has to do with Interview with the Vampire. The series on AMC has been officially renewed already for a season 2, which we've seen a lot recently, and there seems to be buzz around this AMC series, though I can't honestly say that it has been overwhelmingly popular. Generally speaking, when we get an announcement of a new season this early, this far before the current season is released, it's because there's a lot of overly positive buzz. I would say that the Interview with the Vampire buzz is fairly mixed. It's about 50-50. And I mean, we have our own taste of it here on Generally Nerdy, because you'll hear all about that in the shoutouts video that's going up on the Clips channel. Also, if you don't subscribe to the YouTube channel Generally Nerdy, then you should. And I do a shout out video for all new subscribers, and we talk comments and viewer mail and such in those videos as well. That goes up on the second channel, Nerd News Clips. So shameless self-plug there. We have some Interview with the Vampire drama in the comment section that we're going to be addressing there, because again, the situation is so mixed that this doesn't make sense that they got a second season announcement so early. Maybe once a couple episodes had aired, that would make a little bit more sense, but as this stands, seems very strange. Though, I guess it's a good thing that AMC is so confident in it that they're willing to do it this early. This could be a little bit of hubris, though. Only time will tell. That is everything that we have for follow-ups and corrections, so let's get into Trailers, like I said, Nerdom happened, and so we have a few trailers from Nerdom. The first of those trailers is Sonic Prime. We are getting another animated Sonic series. This time it's going to be 3D animated. I believe this is the second Sonic the Hedgehog series that has been 3D animated. It could be the third, but I'm pretty sure it's the second. It is going to be released on Netflix this December. No specific date just yet has been made known, but still, that seems super quick. Next, we're talking about Wednesday. A new trailer for Wednesday has been released. It's not really a trailer so much as a portion of a scene between Wednesday and Thing, which kind of illustrates how different this is going to be from the lore that we already know rather well around the Addams Family. Not to say that that's not uncalled for, because each new iteration of the Addams Family kind of makes up their own lore. They're roughly based on those original cartoons by Addams, but they each kind of have a life of their own. So that's not exactly a detriment to this series, but it's just interesting. So go watch it. It's fun. It's about, what is it, like 5-6 minutes or so. Little interaction between Wednesday and Thing. Next, we have the trailer for The Last of Us. This is an HBO trailer. We also have a release window, 2023. Don't know exactly when yet. That's kind of been the way that that's gone for some time at this point. Our last trailer, and this one is actually kind of super exciting. Our last trailer is the Nier Automata series that is going to Japanese only streamers at the moment. Whether or not this is going to be coming stateside kind of technically still remains to be seen, though it would make sense that they would localize it at least eventually. And being as it's a Sega property, very likely it will come to Crunchyroll, but we don't know that for sure. We learned from this trailer that the Japanese version of the series is going to be coming out sometime in January of 23. But again, a specific day is not yet known. As you know, those things come out, we will be talking about them. And that is everything we have except for one piece of regular ass news, and that is Norman Reedus. That's right, Daryl from The Walking Dead, and one of the twins, I can't remember which one, from the Boondock Saints movie, is getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Pretty exciting. Congratulations goes out to Norman Reedus. He's been the dude for a while now, and I really dig it. So much deserved and much praise. Thank you very much. That leaves only suggestions here in TV streaming, and this one is again a little bit of a stretch, kind of like we talked previously in movies suggestions, how the Little Monsters was a little bit of a stretch. This one's a little bit of a stretch in that it's Halloween oriented in so much as it involves people in costumes, so it still technically works. But Daredevil season 1 over on Netflix. Remember why you fell in love with Charlie Cox playing the role, because that is probably some of the best television you are going to get as far as action oriented television goes. Daredevil season 1 is brilliant on so many levels. What with us getting Charlie Cox back in the suit for the She-Hulk series and then the Daredevil series that is coming to Disney Plus, that is going to ignore the existence of the Netflix series, maybe go check out the Netflix series so you have a kind of litmus test of quality as to, this is what I expect the quality of a Daredevil series to be. Where are you going with this, Disney? So go check out Daredevil season 1 because, again, it's amazing and you really should. Movies section is tiny. Well, not exactly, because we got a bunch of trailers and such, but yeah, it's all follow-ups and trailers, and I think I have one piece of brand new news, which kind of goes along with the theme of the episode. But let's just get into it, shall we? So our first follow-up has to do with Tusk II. We talked about this previously as being a rumor, I believe, even though Justin Long was the one who was talking about it. Well, last week I went to see Kevin Smith live, and he himself on stage confirmed kind of, that Tusk II is in fact going to be a thing. Now, he did also elucidate a little bit more on the subject, as he is wont to do, that it's not anywhere near done. He hasn't even technically written a script for the movie yet, because he is planning on I believe it was a 2024 release for the 10-year anniversary of the first movie. He already has the rough outline. He kind of went through that in the presentation. Rough outline has to do with Justin Long's character getting out of the walrus suit and becoming the crazy old man himself. So very intriguing. He has pretty much the entirety of the cast back, everyone who is still alive. The entirety of the main cast back. Also very likely we'll see Johnny Depp come back, because that seems to be a relationship that Kevin Smith wants to foster, and for all intents and purposes should foster. But yeah, this is going to happen. Whether or not it actually happens in 2024 for the 10-year anniversary, I think still remains to be seen, but that does sound to be the goal. And then hopefully, before we get Tusk II, he also has on his plate the Twilight of the Mallrats movie, assuming Clerks 3 does well, which it should. Kevin Smith's fan base is large enough that they can make him enough money to fund the next movie. And if that happens, if Lionsgate gets what they want, then he will begin work on Twilight of the Mallrats, which is the Mallrats sequel. Again, like, what is that, 30 years later? Wow. Yeah, so that's cool. I dig it. Tusk 2 might not be the movie we need, but it's the movie we're getting, so there you go. Next, we're going to be talking about Blue Beetle. Angel Manuel Soto, the director of the project, recently said in an interview that fans should not be worried, because the suits at Warner Brothers have assured him directly that they are fully behind his project. So, sweet. Thank you. Again, Jaime Reyes, I can't remember the kid's name who's going to be playing him, from Cobra Kai, is my favorite Blue Beetle. I really dig Jaime as Blue Beetle. I think that is a great character, and I'm super excited to see this. As far as I know, as far as I was able to find, August 18th of next year is still the release date for this movie. So yes, this is still happening. We're still rolling forward. Let's continue rolling forward with the episode. Next one up is The Monster. Oh God, okay. Okay, so The Munsters has come out. Rob Zombie's take on the family at 1313 Mockingbird Lane. And, okay, so I'm more of an Addams Family guy to begin with, so let's keep the transparency going as much as possible. I am definitely an Addams Family, I prefer Addams over Munsters. But I still watch the crap out of those Munsters episodes as well, because they're great in their own respect. It just feels like Zombie was trying to do a shtick, and he didn't fully understand what made the Munsters great, and like his Herman seems off, and it just is not an enjoyable experience. There are certain elements of that movie that seemed interesting, like all right, so let's get this out of the way. The basic premise of this movie is it is effectively rebooting the family of the Munsters. Not changing a whole lot, but adding to the backstory, which we didn't get much of in the original series. That being said, we get to see the creation of Herman. We get to see the dynamic between Lily and her dad, the Count. And those are the only three characters from the main series that we really get. We get a call out to Spot, even though Spot wasn't one that you really saw a lot of in the main series. He was just kind of an off-screen entity, more of a running gag than anything. But Yeah, so that's the basic premise. Is it's the creation of Herman, it's these early dynamics between Lily and the Count, and then how Lily and Herman meet and get married, and that's where the movie ends, effectively. I mean, there's obviously hijinks ensue and things happen, and I'm not really spoiling anything because we all know that Herman and Lily get married because that's how the Munsters happens, right? So as far as like the super broad strokes of that outline that I kind of just weakly gave you, sure, it works. It gets to the end. You get to the point that you know you need to get to in order for the Munsters to exist. Yeah, so it's sufficient in that respect. But as far as like the characterization of these characters, there's a point where Lily, Sherry Moon Zombie, who plays Lily Munster, is doing this weird like Lily impersonation, and Audrey Hepburn kind of makes her way into the voicing that it's just so weird. It's so weird. There's so much off about this. I think the Count, her dad, the Count, is probably the most accurate of the characters that we have here. And then Herman, I think the thing that I appreciated about Herman's backstory was him being in a band when he meets Lily. I think that's a really interesting addition to the character of Herman, though all of the other additions we got to the character of Herman, the fact that his brain comes from a really horribly failed stand-up comedian, and who his creator was, and the reason for his creation, and just pretty much all of the other revelations we get in this show are totally unnecessary and don't increase the enjoyability of the show. They detract even at times. So yeah, the Munsters is out. If you have nothing better to watch, which, I mean, Cyberpunk Edge Runners is a thing on Netflix as well, then I guess I would say throw it on as background noise while you're doing chores around the house. But if you want to sit down and watch this thing, it's not appropriate for like a family setting. It's definitely not something that kids will or necessarily should be exposed to or will appreciate. And if you're a big fan of the original series, there's going to be a lot here that pisses you off. So maybe stay away. Go watch Edge Runners instead. Yeah. That's my 2 cents. We'll just keep moving with the episode, shall we? All right. So next in follow-ups, little bird walking aside. Next in follow-ups, we have Fantastic Four. Jeff Kaplan and Ian Springer are confirmed to be writing the script for this Fantastic Four movie. I actually saw this as a rumor inside of this set of research before it was confirmed, and so we're confirming a rumor that we didn't get to talk about because it's actually been, I believe we've actually probably touched on this because we've gotten sources from it before, because this is like the 5th time that they were rumored to be writing this movie, but it's had such an issue keeping directors. Now that we have Shackman, they can officially confirm that we also have writers, and they've been working this out with Feige for what seems to be approximately 3 years at least. So hopefully they'll have some good lore to contribute to the MCU around the comic books first family. But either way, that's who's writing it. Aside from, the fact that they're writing the Fantastic Four, they don't really have a whole lot of other writing credits to their name, and no notable nerd writing credits that I could find. So their quality of movie very much remains to be seen. So that's where we're at with that. Let's move over to Star Trek 4. Speaking of Matt Shackman, since Star Trek 4 no longer has a director, since Shackman has left to direct the Fantastic Four movie, Paramount has removed the 4th Star Trek movie from their release calendar. Now, everybody's kind of losing their minds a little bit about this, and let me be here to, kind of calm that down a little bit. Just because they removed it doesn't mean it's gone for good. They haven't said that they're indefinitely holding it or that it's been canceled or anything like that. They don't have a director, so they can't make a movie without a director. So until they have a director and they can confirm that they can still keep that date, it makes sense that they did this. We're going to get into other director issues in a second, but yeah, this just kind of seems reasonable on Paramount's part, so that they don't set a date that then has to get moved and then has to get moved and then has to get moved because they're still looking for a director, or this director can't work on that same time frame, X, Y, and Z. It just makes logical sense. So there's that. And then we have Avengers Secret Wars. This is another correction because I'm an idiot. I was uncertain last time we talked about Secret Wars. I was uncertain if the actual movie had been officially announced. We'd seen some of the art for it, but I mean, anyone can fake up that art anymore fairly easily, so that wasn't enough to convince me, and I lost my mind when I was filming that episode. But yes, Avengers Secret Wars is a thing. There is a release date for it, November 7th of 2025. That is going to be the end, I believe, of Phase 6. If I'm not mistaken, and again, I'll probably have to correct that unless somebody corrects me in the comment section in upcoming episode. Either way, I'm stupid. I apologize. That is what we have there. And then our final follow-up for this episode has to do with Blade. Speaking once again of losing your director, but Bassam Tariq, who was set to direct this movie, the new Mahershala Ali starring Blade, is no longer associated with this project. There are rumors surrounding this. Kind of speculate what you will, but at this point, they are getting very close to the beginning of their production date, and there are other directors who are trying to get this slot, but no one has been announced as a replacement for Tariq. So yeah, that's kind of where that sits. I would not be surprised if the release date for Blade got pushed back a little bit, much like the Paramount situation a moment ago. But I would be very surprised if Marvel pulled the release date altogether like Paramount did. They are more likely to just bump it until it's on track. That is what we have for follow-ups and corrections. Let's get into trailers. We got the final trailer for Halloween Ends, and oh boy. Release date is October 14th in theaters and on streaming directly through Peacock. I don't understand modern trailers. Like, this gives us all of the beats of the movie. Why do we even need to see the movie now? You know how it's going to end. I'm not gonna put that up here. That'll probably be a video unto itself if I have the time to do it. But yeah, it seems so broken to give all of the major beats of the movie in the 3-minute trailer before the movie releases. Whatever. That's just me, I guess. Next one is a very weird one. And that is exactly why I put it in here. The name of the movie is All Jacked Up and Full of Worms. It is coming to a horror streamer. I didn't write it down because I take amazing notes and I apologize. But if you go watch the trailer, the name of the streamer is in the trailer. And what the hell did I just watch? This is like, all right, so Hereditary will warp your brain because it's just that effective. This one kind of makes you feel, just the trailer even, just makes you feel like you've done hallucinogenics and you want to come down because it's not a good trip. Whoa, like it starts out fairly innocuous, like a little weird, but it's like, okay, this is a weird movie, sure, but nothing crazy. And then you get a little bit deeper into that trailer and you go, okay, everything is upside down, black is white, everything you know is wrong. What is going on? And it kind of has me intrigued, I'm not gonna lie. So maybe it did its job, I don't know. But let's move next to, this is the big one. Deadpool 3. Oh boy, all right. So Ryan Reynolds has officially announced, and this probably could have gone into regular news, but it's technically a video trailer, kind of. Ryan Reynolds has officially announced that Deadpool 3 will be coming out September 6th, 2024. He posted a video to the Twitters, and in that video he also confirmed that none other than Hugh Jackman is going to be returning for his role as Wolverine in this Deadpool 3 movie on Disney. Wow, there is so much here to unpack. So the internet kind of exploded as far as like the nerd corners of the internet go, because some people forget a number of things, not the least of which that this is still comic books, right? We're still basically talking about comic book characters. And what is one thing that is kind of always true about comic books, to some degree, if not to a large degree, is that comic book characters really never die, because if they're popular, even if they're not that popular, because Jason Todd came back and the fans voted to kill him. So he was very objectively not popular and he still came back. So yeah, the fact that Wolverine is coming back, specifically this Wolverine is coming back, should not be a surprise, at the very least based on that information, because it's comic book character and comic book characters never die. So the other part of this is, I don't know how many people forgot, but apparently a lot of you forgot that Wolverine, or Logan rather, was set in the future, like pretty far into the future. So far into the future that a mutant with a healing ability, which ostensibly keeps them young for far longer than most people, a mutant with a healing ability was showing signs of aging. We got Old Man Logan. We got just all of this. It was very much a futuristic movie in so many respects. But people are still saying, well, Logan died in that movie, so how is he in Deadpool 3? Because Deadpool 3 is not set that far into the future? Like, why is this hard to follow? I don't get that. Also, this very potential, we're not going to go there, but we'll get into that. We're going to do a short based on this, but yeah, just, somebody's got to do some comic book math, because y'all are messing up. Anyway, that is, wow, okay. And then our next one, oh yeah, that's right. We got Black Adam. We got a new trailer for Black Adam. This time, they actually had to update this trailer. So there was a different version of this trailer live for a short time, and then they corrected it a little bit, seemingly to straighten out some of the confusion, but they didn't really do that necessarily. So the confusion that I'm speaking of is Superman. So they show one of Batman's batarangs hit the wall, they show Superman's chest piece, and they show Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in this trailer. Now, all of this footage was taken from other movies to make this trailer, and then we get some Black Adam footage as well, so it is a proper trailer. But the community is going a little crazy about maybe they're teasing Superman in this trailer, which, I mean, for all intents and purposes is possible, but if that's the logic you're going with, then we're going to see the entire Justice League, or at the very least, the three main characters from the Justice League, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. We know Batman is going to be in this. That's been confirmed, if I'm remembering correctly, and I could be mistaking some of my DC properties, but I'm pretty sure Batman's been confirmed for this. But Superman has not, and neither has Wonder Woman. So if you're saying that, because they showed Superman's chest piece, then we're also going to be getting Wonder Woman, and that seems like a lot of characters to be juggling for this new... I don't know what I'm doing with my hands here. Yeah, it's... I don't buy it. I'm going to say that. I don't think that's the purpose of this. I think there is a more heroic intention. If you listen to the voiceover with this trailer, they're trying to make Black Adam into, to want to be a hero. So if you're showing heroic images on screen while you're talking about being a hero, it kind of emphasizes your point. I don't think they're teasing anything. But I mean, that's just me. Maybe your speculation is different. Let me know in the comments down below. Our next piece is our one and only piece of regular ass news in movies, and it has to do with James Earl Jones. So James Earl Jones is officially retiring from acting, which means no more James Earl Jones for the voice of Darth Vader. Now, that's not to say we won't be hearing his voice coming from the mask of Darth Vader to some degree. It just means that he won't be recording new sessions. So what Disney is opting to do now is they're going through AI software company. I just lost it in my notes. Where'd it go? Respeecher. The name of the company is Respeecher. They are going to be taking over the role of James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, which also potentially means that throughout the extended universe on Disney, the Star Wars universe, we're going to get a more unified presentation of Darth Vader, because previously, when you just had James Earl Jones doing the voice, he was only doing the voice for, he did series work, some live action series work, and also movies, but he didn't do any of the video games or any of the other tertiary content. So now that we have an AI that can recreate his voice, we don't need other voice actors to do Vader in other things that are officially licensed from Disney, which kind of sucks because, you know, people out of work, but also as far as like immersion level goes with that kind of stuff, it makes sense because it's always going to be the same voice. You don't have to be like, oh, well, that's his version of Vader. This is Vader's voice. That's going forward. So they haven't said specifically that that is going to be the case necessarily. They've only said that in live action stuff and movies that they're going to be using Respeecher for this purpose. Congratulations on James Earl Jones' fantastic career that he has gotten to the point now that he just a legend, but he will be missed in the community for sure because, man, that man could act, honestly, not just do the voice. But that, like I said, is our only piece of regular-ass news. So, movie suggestions. We're talking Halloween stuff. We're talking Trick or Treat, the movie that we talked about previously that is coming to theaters for the first time 17 years later. Trick or Treat is an anthology. It's an anthology technically. Each little vignette stands unto itself and is just a lot of fun as far as like Halloween themed movies go, specifically horror movies. Each little vignette is unique in and of itself. I believe I saw this from Nerdist recently, where they're talking about the vignettes are kind of illustrating what Halloween is like to a bunch of different like age groups of people. So when you're a kid, Halloween is like this and it's that vignette. And then when you're a teenager, Halloween is like this and it's that vignette, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty cool, man. It's a lot of fun. This is definitely one that we watch every year, usually multiple times a year, as we're getting into the Halloween season. So maybe make it part of your tradition as well coming into Halloween. Also, again, it is going to be in theaters, I believe, starting October 6th. So go watch it in theaters after you've watched it at home once or twice. So that is your suggestion for movies this week, is Trick or Treat. All right, that leaves only the rumor mill. And we do have a confirmation. We've already talked about a number of confirmations in this episode, but we have another one. This is another one, though, that didn't make it into the proper rumor mill as a rumor, because as soon as it popped up, it got squashed down by the person who would be the one to squash it. The rumor I am speaking of is Suicide Squad 3. There was a rumor not too long ago, within the last week specifically, that said that Warner Brothers Discovery is looking to make a third Suicide Squad 3. And the big part of that rumor, because obviously they're going to want to make another Suicide Squad movie. The last one did pretty good for them. The first one did all right. It was in the positive as far as numbers go, but did not get very well received. Specific Suicide Squad 3 rumor said that Warner Brothers wanted to put David Ayer back in the director's chair and not James Gunn, which James Gunn immediately took to his social media to say, no, that's not true. Though, since this has kind of happened, there have been a number of opportunities for him to say that a third Suicide Squad movie is not going to happen, and he has very specifically not shot down the existence of a Suicide Squad 3 possibility, more likely with him at the helm. He did say, though, that an Ayer Suicide Squad 3 was definitely out of the picture. So there you go. So let's get into, honestly, we only have one real rumor for this episode, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and that is Super Mario Brothers. We have the Super Mario Brothers animated movie trailer is rumored to be released at New York Comic Con this week, which is happening soon. So we should be able to confirm or refute this rumor as soon as New York Comic Con happens. And all right, so the likelihood that this is going to be a thing is fairly high because New York Comic Con and San Diego Comic Con are the two places where this kind of stuff happens. How likely, I don't know, but I do know it is more likely than not. So we're just going to say about 60% likelihood that this is going to happen, even though deep down, I'm pretty sure it's a much higher likelihood. I'm just playing it safe on this one. But like I said, guys, that's the only rumor we've got. So if you want to check out, if you're falling behind in your nerd news, you want to check out other episodes, then go check out, the boxes that are going to be popping up to the side of my face. You can do the thing and the stuff, and I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Do all of the things. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.